Since the 1980s, PPPs are stirring a growing interest among governments, international institutions, and scholars. They are hailed to be the best alternative for the delivery of public goods. Why PPPs? Three reasons. The first one is academic. The new line of thinking in public economics emphasizes efficiency over the ideological quarrel between left and right and public and private property rights. And in this line of thinking, there are many schools of thoughts, like the new public management, which promote the use by the public sector of the methods of the private sector for the planning, the financing, the construction, and the operation, the management of any project. The second reason is financial. Governments suffer around the world from high budget deficits and worsening public debts. Well, the private sector will rally inputs to relieve government from these pressures and at the same time satisfy an increasing demand from the consumers for a better infrastructure and better quality services. The third reason is economic. It stems from the relationship between infrastructure and growth. Infrastructure contributes to growth. It contributes to growth in two ways. First, it benefits consumers, benefiting from better services in water, energy, telecommunication, transport. This will increase their social welfare. And it benefits also firms because it lowers their costs, therefore increasing competitiveness, expanding markets, and contributing indirectly to economic growth. But what are PPPs? The concept is really ambiguous because the private sector has always been involved in the construction of infrastructure, and the contractual arrangements between the public and the private sector are very diverse. PPPs differ from other contractual arrangements in two ways. First, the private partner is in charge of not only constructing the infrastructure, but also in operating it. This will motivate him to do the best investment during the construction phase, such as to lower his costs in the operation phase. The second difference with other contractual arrangements is that the state is the buyer of the service and not the users. Therefore, the state retains control over the quantity and the quality of the service. And in this way, PPPs combine the strongest sides of the private sector and the public sector, that is, the expertise of the private sector and the control of the public sector. Some definitions include a broader types of arrangement, going from management and lease contracts to BOTs. Anyway, what is important is how are PPPs efficient? Well, efficiency in economics is the optimal difference between benefits and costs. Well, PPPs have many advantages. First, they relieve governments from budget constraint. Second, they will give access to enterprises, firms, into markets that they didn't have access to before. And the consumers will be happy because they will have better quality services. However, PPPs were not that successful, especially in developing countries. And that is because of their main weakness, transaction costs. Transaction costs include like the cost of writing the contracts, the cost of devising procedures for attributing the contracts to the right contractor, and the hidden costs such as corruption, nepotism, and even hidden costs arising from unforeseen events like economic crisis or a political turmoil. Without good institutional quality, we cannot minimize these transaction costs. This is why, and after an extensive study on 3,196 projects in developing countries, 83 developing countries, for the period from 1999 to 2011, I've studied this relationship between the institutional quality and the success of PPPs. The success of PPPs was measured by the volume of investment commitments and the number of PPPs, and found a positive relationship between institutional quality and the success of PPP markets.